of that. And so we are able to make some significant leaps because there are these two countries in Asia who experimented with those. They are ahead, and we can adapt some of that model and implement it. It's the same as cars. China didn't make cars 80 years ago. Others were making cars. We've looked at how we are making cars. We've adapted. Now, the notion that we can learn from each other in terms of business development model is really, an argument for the product.
Can follow me on Facebook and X using the handle Lishin in Beijing. You've got the point. I love you. 我爱你. This might be the easiest way to say I love you, since there are so many other romantic expressions. No matter if you're a rookie,
你好，我的中文语李安田
or a sophisticated learner,
我来北京5年了，我是本地人。
there is definitely something that will interest you. Check out Takeaway Chinese, a word that starts with 你好.
You're listening to CGTN Radio. Hear the difference. Experience the musical classics of the East. Mingle with the masters of Chinese music.
我的这种美召唤了女性。
因为蒙古民族被称为马背民族，小小二胡。
Music talks. Witness the sound of antiquity and modernity. This is CGTN Radio. Hear the difference.
Now the news. I'm Shane Bigham. Official data shows that China's national economy sustained its recovery momentum since September. China's value-added industrial output expanded 5.4% on a yearly basis in November. Growth is 1/10 of a point faster than that of the previous month. Retail sales of consumer goods went up 3% in November. In the first 11 months, investment in fixed assets went up 3.3% over a year ago. China's job market remained generally stable, with the jobless rate falling in the first 11 months of the year. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, the surveyed urban unemployment rate stood at 5.1% over the period, down by 1/10 of a point. In November, the figure came in at 5%, staying flat compared to the previous month. Chinese authorities have bolstered the job market by reducing premiums for unemployment insurance, while also issuing insurance refunds and providing subsidies for skills training. The country created nearly 10.5 million new urban jobs during the first 9 months, and it set a target of generating over 12 million urban jobs throughout the year. South Korea's Constitutional Court says it'll hold its first preparatory hearing on the impeachment of President Yoon Suk-yeol on December 27th. The court says it'll prioritize the case on whether to uphold or reject the impeachment motion against Yoon that was passed through the National Assembly. Prosecutors have summoned Yoon to appear for questioning for the second time. The National Assembly passed the impeachment motion on Saturday over the president's declaration of martial law earlier this month. A severe storm has badly damaged 2 Russian oil tankers, causing an oil spill in the Black Sea, and at least 1 crew member has reportedly died. Online footage shows the bow of 1 tanker completely broken off, with streaks of oil visible in the water. The incident took place in the Kerch Strait, which separates Russia from Crimea. Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered a working group to deal with the rescue operation and mitigate the impact of the fuel spill. The Kerch Strait is a key route for exports of Russian grain, and it's also used for exports of crude oil, fuel oil, and liquefied natural gas. The Israeli government has approved a plan to expand settlements in the Golan Heights, a Syrian territory currently occupied by Israel. The Israeli Prime Minister's office said the plan aims to double the Israeli population in the Golan Heights. Israel captured parts of Golan during the 1967 war and annexed it despite international condemnation. Following the downfall of former Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's government on December the 8th, Israel seized the UN-monitored buffer zone, a demilitarized area established in 1974 under a ceasefire agreement between the 2 countries. Meanwhile, Israel has launched more airstrikes on Syrian army assets across the country. Gulf countries, including Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Qatar, have denounced the Israeli decision to expand settlements in the Golan Heights. Jonathan Mergev has more.
We've seen Israeli vehicles crossing into Syria. Israel has no plans of withdrawing for the moment. What Israel has been saying is that at least until that Israel is absolutely certain that there is a responsible factor on the other side that can maintain governance, then Israel will be the one maintaining the governance on the border areas, and that is why, despite the calls, the Israeli forces are still inside. The interim government in Syria did say that Israel has no place to be in Syria, that the new Syrian regime is not interested in conflict with any foreign power, and this is why Israeli forces should not maintain any presence in Syria.
Cyclone Chido has swept through the French territory of Mayotte in the Indian Ocean. The French Interior Minister said there are fears that the number of deaths will be high and the island is being largely devastated. Mayotte has a population of just over 300,000 spread over two main islands, about 800 kilometers off Africa's east coast. In sports, China's won 3 titles at the 2024 Badminton World Tour Finals in Hangzhou. Shi Yuqi and Wang Zhiri claimed men's and women's singles titles. Their compatriots Zheng Siwei and Huang Yachong clinched the mixed doubles title. Meantime, China claimed gold in the men's 5,000-meter relay on Sunday, the final of the short-track speed skating world tour in Seoul. Over the 3-day competition, Canada emerged as the biggest winner with 4 gold medals, while South Korea and the U.S. each claimed 2. China finished with 1 gold and 1 silver. And that's the news. I'm Shane Bigham.
This is Roundtable.
93 cities, hundreds of millions of children. China has a bold vision for child-friendly cities. But with challenges ahead, can we build the cities our kids deserve? The race to the future starts now. And feeling those Monday blues? Not on Motivational Monday. Tune into our special segment for a boost that will have you saying, "Bring it on, week." Coming to you live from Beijing, this is Roundtable. I'm He Young. For today's program, I'm joined by Steve Hatherley and Yushun in the studio. First, on today's show, a child-friendly city is more than just colorful parks and playgrounds. It's about creating spaces where kids are heard, feel safe and free to explore. With 93 cities, and that's about 1/3 of all cities in China at the prefecture level or higher, taking on this new challenge, how do we ensure every city becomes a safe haven for children? So, Yushun, let's go to you first. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so it starts from this report. It was published. The China Child-Friendly Cities Development Report, which was published by the National Development and Reform Commission and National Working Committee on Children and Women under State Council. So this report revealed that as of now, 93 cities, as you said, across the country have been included under the construction of child-friendly cities, covering 31 provinces, regions, and municipalities. So we can see more and more places are paying attention to formulating and implementing related social policies and improving related public services, like building up infrastructures for the purposes of creating an environment that is friendly to children.
It's an odd term, isn't it? Child-friendly city, because if you don't know what it's all about, my first impression was, oh, is this a city with a lot of playgrounds or parks or extra zoos or theme parks? What is it? But it's not that. It's not about that at all. The background behind a child-friendly city, let's talk about that. This is from UNICEF.org, and in 1989, that's when world leaders, they made a historic commitment to the world's children. That's when they adopted the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, and that's an international agreement on childhood. And what that's done is it's inspired governments to change laws and policies also make investments so that more children finally get health care. They also get the nutrition that they need to survive and to develop, and that there are stronger safeguards in place to protect kids from violence and exploitation. And it's also enabled more kids to have their voices heard and participate in society as well.
And now fast forward to 2024, let's get into the definition of child-friendly cities.
Yes, as you said, when I was thinking of the idea of child-friendly cities, the word that comes to my mind is utopia.
Yes,
maybe
right.
that could
The
be like
movie.
designing different sizes of doors or ways of transportation systems for different sizes of people.
I thought you were going to say rabbits and sloths.
Yes, and all the buildings are pink and green and blue.
Yes,
right.
but obviously it's not like that. In practice, it is kind of a city, town, or community in which the voices, needs, priorities, and rights of children are an integral part of public policies, programs, and decisions. So a child-friendly city refers mainly to a city that provides suitable conditions, environment, and services for children's growth and development, and also ensuring their rights to survival, development, protection, and participation.
Yes, and also broadly speaking, right, there could be many aspects that a child-friendly city could cover, but it depends whether you want to go that broad or not, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about what they're doing at a government level, they're creating a network that brings together government and then the stakeholders like civil society organizations and the private sector and academia and media, and more importantly, and most importantly perhaps, children themselves who want to make their cities and their communities more child-friendly. I saw a story because I was looking up, this is a new term for me, child-friendly city, even though it's been around for a while. And I was looking up, whether Canada has child-friendly cities, and we do, and whether America does, and I can go into a bit of the background on that later if you want. But the story that I found was from Australia, and I thought this was so cute. What they did was they had this competition for children. It was launched following UNICEF's Australia's inaugural Better World Youth Summit. And what they did was they asked kids to create a city or a community that was good for their physical and mental well-being. And again, it was a competition, and the most creative entries could have won up to $3,000 in cash. They had a range of other prizes as well. And the kids were given the opportunity to write their ideas, and also in some classrooms they were given Lego blocks or different toys that they could use to design different things around the city. So I thought that was a really cool thing to do, and again, it's about hearing the voices of the kids.
Yes, and we've seen that if we look at this in maybe broader brushes, one could argue that when a city has great access to quality social services, that's really good for children. And when children can live in a safe, secure, and clean environment with access to green spaces, for example. And, there are all these different metrics that one could add to this concept of child-friendly cities.
Yes, and the most important one actually is to have a fair chance in life, regardless of their ethnic origin or their religion or their income or their gender or their ability. And that's the statement, that's the government policy statement.
Right, so we've got all of this on paper and in the books what it's supposed to be. Then let's take a look at the situation of Chinese children, because everything or anything, when you put into the Chinese context, often it is astounding numbers when you take a closer look at it.
Yeah, as we can see, according to a recent report by People's Daily, China is a country with a large population of children. At present, there are about 300 million children aged 0 to 17, accounting for about 1/5 of the total population of the country and 1/8 of the world's child population.
Yeah, can we just stop and look at that statistic for a second? I'm new to China, relatively new. It's been about half a year now. And still, when I hear the statistic 1.4 billion people, I still can't really wrap my mind around what that means, because here in Beijing, when you've got a population of around 21 million roughly, in my experience. When you go out in the streets around Beijing, you don't really feel that population of 21 million. It still feels quite well spaced out. But 300 million people, 300 million children aged 0 to 17. I don't know the exact population of Canada. I think it's around 35 million. But if you took all the Canadians and took them out of the country 10 times, then that is the population in China for the age group 0 to 17. That is a staggering number for that age group.
Yeah, and also we can see that is how it is not a problem, or the thing that we need to pay attention to. Because creating a space for them, or creating a space that is suitable for them, is something that we really need to do right now. So, according to an earlier report by China Youth Daily, a 2023 report by the State Council showed that over 30% of families with children under 3 have the need of child daycare nursery service. However, restricted by multiple factors, including, the current industry development stage and service prices, only less than 8% of the families enjoy the service. So that is showing that, there is huge gap, or like a huge space.
Well, yeah, I mean,
it's
about 22%, right? 30% of families with children under 3 need it, but only under 8%, as you mentioned, they enjoy those services.
Right, and that is actually, I think, a headache for at least parents in China as well as in the U.S., for example, because childcare can be expensive. And here is essentially what we're talking about. Because it's expensive, it's a private service that you have to pay for. It's not covered by the government. And this is one of the many examples, or the sore points for potential families to maybe even want to have kids. Because, there's a lot of this financial time and, just major burden. Maybe you can say it's a sweet burden, but it's a real one that families need to shoulder if they want to have kids.
Yeah, it's a cost that needs to be considered as well, and the support definitely should be there, needs to be there.
Okay, so that's one of the many examples or many reasons why building a child-friendly city can be really useful for families. But I want to ask you guys, because, as someone who doesn't have a kid, but has been a kid most of her life, as she feels, do we really need this? Why construct a child-friendly city when you can say, okay, let's construct a disabled person's friendly city, or a female-friendly city, or, pick whatever vulnerable group in society, but why children?
There is an example, I think, that can maybe answer a question. I remember that because, there was a elementary school downstairs from my home, and the surrounding roads naturally became the main routes for children going to school, right? So I saw a notice that read, "Your child, my child, are all our child, or our children." This also reflects that, the idea that the construction of the entire community and its facilities is a significant project that serves the whole generation. So it's not only about like 1 or 2 people or just one community of kids. It is creating an idea for creating a better or suitable environment for this generation of children.
Yeah, I mean, it's the next generation of people, right? So I think you brought up a good point, He-Young, but I'm going to disagree with you because I don't think it's about excluding specific groups. It's including everyone, right? Everybody in that age group who qualifies as a child. And it's more about the actions or perhaps the inactions that government takes or doesn't take that impact children more strongly than any other group in society. If you're talking about government policy for education or public health, well, those affect children to some degree at the moment, but they affect children as they continue to age and enter into the education field or into their school days. So if governments or policies are being put in place worldwide that fail to take children into account, well, that's going to have a negative impact on those children and their future, thereby having a negative impact on everyone's future. And I think that's why this is important.
Yeah, and the benefits of a child-friendly city, I do agree with you guys in the sense that it goes beyond just the children themselves. When cities are designed with children's needs at the center, it could lead to healthier, happier communities, safer streets, better public health, more green spaces, and greater social cohesion. And that could all make for a stronger, more sustainable urban environments for everyone. And also, when reading through some of the theoretical works in this area, what I find to be really interesting is that one scholar made the point that building, well, ideally speaking, the children-friendly cities is that it could equip families and cities to better correspond and accommodate to the rapidly changing society. Because, well, we're going to talk about AI coming up, in less than 20 minutes. And, with so many technological changes, and, for example, Chinese families becoming smaller and smaller, and grandparents might not be able all the time to be there to support these nuclear families and childcare and other purposes. And society is just changing rapidly. And then there are a lot of things that are on families for them to adopt. And if you can have a society, a city that's got more of these social services that can help you to adopt, then ideally speaking, I know I'm speaking of, if everything runs perfectly, almost in a perfect world, but it could be a really good thing. And I also want to ask you guys, China isn't like flipping on a switch to go from zero to, children-friendly of cities overnight. We've done many things to get here. So tell us how far we've gone.
Oh, yeah. So as we can see, it's not like a new thing to China. National level policy to build 100 such cities. Liu Ming, who is the director of the Social Development Department of the National Development and Reform Commission, said that in 2021, the construction of child-friendly cities was included in our, work plan or 14th five-year plan. In the same year, with the approval of the State Council, 23 departments, including the National Development and Reform Commission, jointly issued this kind of a guidance, officially starting China's construction of child-friendly cities. And also, according to this opinion or this guidance, China will launch pilot child-friendly city schemes in approximately 100 cities nationwide by 2025. The progress we can see is ongoing since the construction of the first batch of 14 child-friendly cities was announced in 2022. An additional 40 and 39 cities were added in respectively 2023 and 2024.
Yeah, so that's a total of 93 cities now across the country. And again, just comparing to Canada, I don't even think we have 93 cities in our country. And 93 isn't even a large piece of the pie in China either, right?
It's only, just to quickly offer a footnote, that's nearly 1/3 of the Chinese cities at the prefecture level and above. So we're still talking about the more advanced, bigger cities, certainly, and there are still plenty of smaller cities that probably need to sort of wait and see and maybe join this action later on.
Yeah, and by the end of 2023, there were over 130 cities, including urban areas of municipalities directly under the central government, that have formulated implementation plans and action plans for their construction of child-friendly cities. So it's obviously, it's not new here in China at all, but it's what's been done so far is great, and we can see that it's going to continue to grow too, and that's very good news.
And we've seen many of these child-friendly places or spaces being built during these recent years. Could you give us some of those examples?
Oh, yes. So Hefei is in Anhui province, is in the eastern China. It has equipped over 60 newly built kindergartens with child-friendly facilities such as parent waiting areas, small playgrounds, and public toilets. And also in Qingdao, in Shandong province, which is in northern China, it has designed and launched 10 child-friendly libraries with an annual reception of about 500,000 children readers, creating a public welfare picture book library open to children in the city for free. And that is the point that I would like to mention, because we know that China is constructing a lot of like public and free libraries for all of the citizens. And one, maybe some of them will have, but maybe not. But that it is quite important that we have a special sector or section that is designed for children, because when you're like sitting down or you have a seat, different designs will actually help children to have a better reading experience, and that is quite important.
Yeah, and that's an indoor activity.
Yes.
And here's an example of an outdoor activity. Suzhou, am I pronouncing that correctly, in Jiangsu province?
Yes.
40 parks, 5 venues and blocks carried out child-friendly renovation in 119 different schools and surrounding transportation. So indoor activities, libraries, fantastic. Outdoor activities and spaces for kids to be able to play and have fun also.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, something that just quickly comes to mind is, just making so many of these public facilities more mom and children friendly, and also maybe dad and children friendly. And in recent years, we've heard so much about building these family-oriented bathrooms in nice shopping malls everywhere in Beijing. At least you see these family-friendly restrooms where the mom or dad could easily change the diapers for the baby. And it's so spacious and well lit and nice, and with places to put your personal belongings in and take as long as you want. I think that's really great.
And those are things that maybe, you and I might not even notice if we're out and about, but there are people, especially people with young children, they obviously notice those types of things, particularly when they are not there. Right. That's when they notice the most. And the fact that they are there just makes things more comfortable and more convenient for families.
Right.
And also, I think one point is that we've discussed so many like infrastructures and facilities. I think one aspect that you mentioned before is that we're not only creating these facilities, but also letting kids herd. So that is also one part that we need to pay attention to, because children's view are rarely heard and rarely considered in the political process. But children, without special attention to the opinions of children as they expressed at home and in schools, in local communities, and even in governments, children's views go unheard on the many important issues that affect them now or will affect them in the future. Because I can see a lot of videos that's about children on video platforms. We can imagine that, a 5-year-old kid, they cannot have a lot of opinions, but actually they have their own ideas, even their own opinions on a lot of things. And maybe creating a space for them to speak out, and maybe that is the best design for them themselves.
When I was in high school, I remember the local government had budgetary issues, and they were talking about how they were going to, out of necessity, put special needs children into the other classrooms, combining the two into one. And our school requested a special meeting with the government officials about this. And the students spoke up. And I remember this meeting very clearly, because I remember that the number one most popular opinion from the students speaking to the government council at that time was this: we are concerned that the students are not going to get the attention that they require. And the kids weren't talking about themselves. They were talking about the special needs kids. They were saying they are not going to get the attention that they deserve and that they require, and this isn't going to be good for them. And the reason that stood out to me so much is because the kids weren't thinking from a selfish point of view, now I'm not going to get as much attention from the teacher. Not at all. So when you ask young people their opinions, And you're right, I think you should. And it's true in many places around the world. Young people don't often get their voices heard. But when you ask, then you can get some answers that might surprise you and might even give you, as adults, even better ideas on how to make a stronger community.
I think you're onto something fundamental here, and I think it also points to a major obstacle to the development or the better development of child-friendly cities. That is, in general, there's a lack of understanding of the real needs of children. Especially if you don't have a system, a process that is open for suggestion in a really smooth and easy way, then sometimes the government could be very well-intentioned and maybe through some hard deliberation might even have a solid budget to be devoted to this cause. But how can you come up with designs and ways of implementation that truly addresses the needs, the real needs of children? And I think there's just so much work that could be done in that area. But also today, when we're talking about this discussion, it's potentially showing that in China that maybe we've passed the phase of throwing trillions of yuan into infrastructure projects, and that could be an important part of pulling the economy up. But we need to talk about how to use that money in a smarter way and to really benefit those in need. And as we look into the future, the idea of child-friendly cities is not just a trend, but it could be a fundamental shift in how we view urban development. By prioritizing the needs of children, we're investing in a society where empathy, equality, and sustainability aren't just ideals, but they're built into the very fabric of our cities. And it's clear that the true measure of a city's success will be how well it nurtures its most vulnerable citizens. Coming up, imagine Jin Huan from Chinese series The Legend of Jin Huan gracefully plotting her next intrigue.
经过全党全国各族人民持续奋斗。
Through the continued efforts of the whole party and the entire nation, we have realized the first centenary goal of building a moderately prosperous society in all respects.
历史性地解决了绝对贫困问题。
We have brought about a historic resolution to the problem of absolute poverty in China.
In 2021, Chinese President Xi Jinping announced to the world that China, home to 1/5 of the world's population, had eradicated absolute poverty as scheduled by the end of 2020. This is also one of the globally recognized accomplishments that China has achieved over the past decade. From poverty alleviation to the inheritance of intangible cultural heritage, from green development to upholding social fairness and justice, and from peace building to promoting global development, China, under Xi Jinping's leadership, is in the process of significant transformations across sectors, pioneering innovative Chinese solutions for the world. Season 2 of Stories of Xi Jinping tells stories about China's great strides towards modernization and interprets Xi Jinping's governance philosophy, which has galvanized China's development and inspired many around the world. To better understand China, subscribe to Stories of Xi Jinping on all major podcast platforms.
Global listeners, get ready for the hottest discussions on the airwaves. Roundtable, your passport to the heart of China's buzzing society. Pressing issues, lifestyle trends, and impactful policies, we're tackling them head on with wit, wisdom, and innovative thought. Discover the real China through the eyes and voices of its people. Gain a unique global perspective on topics that resonate universally. Tune in and turn up the excitement dial on Roundtable as we bridge gaps and break barriers one discussion at a time. Don't just listen, be transformed.
Discussion keeps the world turning.
This is Roundtable.
You're listening to Roundtable with myself, He Young. I'm joined by Steve Hatherley and Yu Shun in the studio. Coming up, what if Bruce Lee faced off against The Rock Dwayne Johnson in a fistfight? Or Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, battling Darth Vader in an interstellar showdown? AI-generated videos are creating hilarious and surreal mashups that challenge our perception of history and storytelling. Are AI videos dismantling our classics, or is it even a problem? And do you need that boost to crush the week? Our special segment, Motivational Monday, is your ultimate adrenaline shot to kick things off strong. Our podcast listeners can find us at Roundtable China on Apple Podcasts. And got a question that's keeping you curious, from social issues to tech and everything in between? Let us take a stab at it. Email us at roundtablepodcast@qq.com. Emails are fine, but voice memos are always better, and we are collecting voices from our listeners this week and next week, and then I guess it's going to be the new year. We want to know and we want to air your thoughts about what happened to you this year in 2024, and what are your thoughts and best wishes for 2025? And, for the New Year's Day show, we'll make it a party, carnival, a fantastic time for everyone, where we want to air your voices and make it a responsive show, more than usual, that kind of thing. So you can send us your voice memos to roundtablepodcast@qq.com. Now let's switch gears. Picture this. One moment, an elegant Chinese imperial consort from the popular TV series The Legend of Zhen Huan moves gracefully through the imperial palace. The next, she's revving up a Harley Davidson and roaring into the sunset. Or perhaps Iron Man and Spock, two fictional characters from entirely separate universes of Marvel and Star Trek, embrace for a tender kiss. And the world of AI-generated video. Yeah, really.
Yeah, anything is possible, right?
Literally anything is possible.
Oh, yes, indeed. And in the world of AI-generated videos, one thing is certain: seeing is no longer believing. When their ability to turn historic or dramatic moments into surreal spectacles, AI-modified videos become a social media sensation. When these clips often leave audiences in stitches, they also raise important questions about artistic integrity and the respect owed to original works. So, how popular are these AI-modified videos these days?
Yeah, they're very popular on social media platforms. These AI-modified videos have garnered massive attention, with some videos racking up over 1 million likes and even more shares. For example, a single self-media account reportedly gained 180,000 followers after produced 42 AI-modified episodes of what you said, Zhen Huan Zhuan, or The Empresses in the Palace, or The Legend of Zhen Huan.
So would that be a very well-known kind of historical...
Yeah. Not historical, though. No, it is not historical. It's fictional, but it's so popular. Yeah, and
it even got English versions that has been aired abroad. So also on Douyin, which is the Chinese version of TikTok, one such kind of videos of this show, as we mentioned, amassed around 1.7 million likes, 3.8 million shares, and 124,000 comments. So people are liking it, discussing it, and also making it, of course. This wave of AI-modified videos has taken these kind of short video platforms by storm.
Yeah, they're becoming really, really popular. And if you're asking, why? Well, I think the answer is because they can. That's maybe the only answer. Because the barrier is very low now, and the accessibility is so high. These AI-powered video generating tools, they're pretty easy to use, and that means that people like me, that aren't so tech savvy, can play with those tools and then reimagine video content through them. You don't have to really know a lot about the tech behind it, and then the rest is up to your creativity, I suppose, and you can make these effects really vivid, and the process is pretty simple, and you get these really high-quality videos. And I think people are just having fun with their ideas and having fun with the tools, too.
Yeah, speaking of ideas, when we're speaking of so many different franchises that they were having, they're appearing in one video. I think that's also because nowadays young people, especially these kind of people who would like to make these kind of videos, they are trying to, mostly they're just fans, or they are in favor of making two characters into one video. We call that kind of crossover. Just like you are a Star Wars fan and you also like watching Game of Thrones, and then you can just give them a video of Jon Snow and give them a prompt that Jon Snow is fighting with a lightsaber. That's all. Then that is how satisfy these kind of audience that, okay, I want something that you never crossed over, and I can create it one myself.
Yeah, so right there, you can see this kind of speaks to a younger audience, I think. It doesn't have to, of course, but I think it does. Maybe because of it's a bit rebellious.
Yeah,
too.
kind of.
I mean, not overly seriously rebellious in many cases, but still a little rebellious when you're taking characters from different worlds, for example, and combining them into one. Then there's that sense of like naughtiness, I suppose, that people have fun with too.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And ever since Sora first came out earlier this year, and I remember we immediately did a show right after its only the release of what it can do, but it wasn't fully available for the public to enjoy until most recently. But yes, absolutely. With these AI video tools in our hands, creativity is no longer confined to elite professional creators, and these technologies make it possible for anyone and everyone with an internet connection to create and share quote-unquote original content, and regardless of their technical or artistic background. And you can create these things in your bedroom. And it's a one-person movie studio when you think about it.
What's the kind of public response been? Because the example that you gave is a very well-known, internationally, but especially here in China, a piece of art. And purists, I would think, would not like people messing around with characters joining from different worlds. So what's the response been?
Yes, I would say the responses are mixed. Of course, in one way, as you said, some of these, especially series and dramas, they're kind of classic to Chinese culture, and also this kind of way. People are saying that they're distorting classics and misrepresenting intentions.
I mean, what do you think about that?
In a way, these AI-modified videos often prioritize humor and how to make this video popular and viral. In that sense, it is actually, it's kind of offensive to a lot of fans, to these like true fans, to these kind of culture or this story behind this.
Well, some people might find it offensive, but other people, or maybe the wider public, might just find it to be interesting because of the shock value, especially at this moment. I think there's definitely the novelty factor still in play, because in the past you've just never seen anything like this. But I suspect that when this becomes more and more common, and maybe the shock factor will no longer be in play. But certainly, all the examples we've given so far, there's a mega problem with that, intellectual property, because these are all characters that are taken from established and proprietary items of intellectual property.
Yeah,
so it's not like exactly. It's not like you're creating your.
Yeah, it's not public domain. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, indeed. It's not like you've created your own character.
Right.
But then if you created your own character, nobody would have recognized it and nobody would have been sharing it on social media or attracting so much traffic.
I mean, I'm kind of reminded, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie or not, but Baz Luhrmann, I think he's an Australian director, he did the modern day version of Romeo and Juliet, the Shakespeare play.
Starring DiCaprio?
Yeah, Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes, right?
Yeah.
And that was a modern take on Shakespeare. Now, Shakespeare, to literary purists in the West, is like sacred literary ground. You don't go there and you don't mess with it. So the purists, you know, they had a bit of a problem with that film when it came out. Roger Ebert is a very well-known film critic, and I think he said something along the lines of, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes are talented, but they're in over their head because there's a way you're supposed to speak Shakespeare. There's a way you're supposed to deliver the language, and they have not mastered it. That was one critic's opinion, whereas the Hollywood Reporter said, you know, this isn't going to replace other top cinematic versions of Romeo and Juliet, but it was meant to target a young audience, and the release was successful. And this is the point that I want to make. I'll ask the question. When that came out in 1996, I was an English major at the time. I was studying Shakespeare. And the reason I loved it is because it introduced Shakespeare to an audience that perhaps would never, ever have seen a Shakespearean film or read a Shakespearean play. What I'm wondering is, you know, gave the example of, did you call it Empresses in the Palace? Yeah. Is it possible that maybe this is doing a service in that it's introducing it to people who might not have known about it, or reminding people that it is such a wonderful piece of Chinese art?
Yeah, that's also one side of the opinions, you know. And people also think that with all of these altering, it is kind of breathing new life into the classics. So the appeal of these videos often stems from audiences' familiarity with these original, because why people are doing this on these kind of videos, because people love them, and most people know the basic plot and ideas of this drama, and that's why people are kind of remixing different ideas on these videos.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
If it's somebody who doesn't know Zheng Huan, or the Empress in the Palace, or the other way to say it, the Legend of Zheng Huan, do you think that person would be interested at all to see Nianfei? She's actually the concubine, imperial concubine, that was on a motorbike. And so,
right.
I mean, for you, Steve, you're not from China, you don't know Zheng Huan, and then would that even interest you? So I think this is... your facial expression seemed to look kind of blank, so I assume it's not something that would interest you.
Well, I mean, not at first glance, because I don't know anything about it, but like I said, now that we're here talking about it, now
we're creating chances for people to know about it.
And this is what I was trying to say before, is that maybe, you know, there's a group of people who don't love this. They think, oh, you're stepping on other people's toes here. We don't like, you know, you messing with the original art, but yet I do think that there is something to that. It's opening it up to a bigger audience.
But I still have some reservations here, because the examples you gave, Steve, that was, you know, the interpretation of Romeo and Juliet.
That is true.
In 1996. But here, thanks to AI, we're talking about directly lifting like images and videos and basically faces and bodies of living people and also proprietary content into a video that's expressing something that they have no consent to, and that's not okay.
Yeah, so I guess to be more accurate with my example, then we have to take the princess from the story and put her on that Harley Davidson behind Leonardo DiCaprio playing Romeo in that film, and have her drive down the street or ride down the street on that bike. Then you'd have the Shakespearean purists come out even more and say, oh, this doesn't make sense. Now you're really totally combining two different worlds. Yeah, you bring up a fair point. That was just a reinterpretation of Shakespeare.
Yeah, you might have Leo and his international film studio coming to sue these people for using their image without them knowing it at all. So what about now the Chinese government or at least in the regulation sphere of things, we're seeing new changes to adapt to this changing scene as well?
Exactly, as you said, when these kind of plots or ideas of these classics were totally distorted, this could be misleading, right? So what we can see is that on December 7th, the National Radio and Television Administration, or NRTA of China, issued a management notice on AI-modified content to address this growing trend of AI-modified videos. And the guidelines clearly said that the manipulation of classic works, especially if the modifications contradict the original spirit and integrity of the piece, constitutes a violation or intellectual property and cultural respect. Additionally, using AI tools to remix or modify films or TV shows featuring actors' likenesses without consent may infringe upon actors' image rights.
And the point that I made before, that's the flip side to it right there. If you're introducing a story or art to people who didn't know about it before, but they're learning about it this way for the first time, then that takes away from I don't even know how to phrase it properly, but it takes away from the cultural richness of the original material. I think there's an argument there too.
I think there's an argument there as well, but I'll also play devil's advocate in making this point. These AI-generated videos, or this world we live in, kind of thrive in a postmodern environment where destruction, or let's use a different word, deconstruction of traditional narratives and genres have become a norm. And this is the environment where young people are living in. And I can't say good or bad. Definitely time is moving on, and so are people. So, well, I guess you just got to stay alert and watch and see if you can participate as well in all this change that is unfolding in our very eyes. Coming up next, Motivational Monday.
Motivational Monday. Motivational Mondays.
For this Motivational Monday, I know you should be very excited because you have big news to share with us.
Yes, so first of all, let's say my quote. It is actually a well-known saying in China, though many might not realize it originates from Journey to the West, the classic. That classic, the Chinese novel, and the saying goes, 世上无难事，只怕有心人. This is very classic from even our primary school. It means nothing in the world is insurmountable. It only takes determination. This quote was also shared by Feng Ji, who is the CEO of Black Myth Wukong. That's the topic I want to talk about. After the game did not win Game of the Year at this year's TGA, the Game Awards, which is also commonly known as the Oscars of the game industry. Well, the game did win Best Action Game and the Player's Voice Award, which is also a monumental achievement for Chinese gaming. It was likely still a bittersweet moment for both producers and creators and fans, of course. So, in response, Feng Ji offered this quote and explaining his own understanding. He believes it doesn't mean that any difficulty can be overcome as long as you are willing, but rather that with the right mindset to face challenges, difficulties, failures become less intimidating. Then they won't easily defeat you. So, I think, of course, everyone faces countless difficulties in life, and those challenges often leave us struggles or, feeling exhausted, discouraged, or even in pain. But, when you can, when a life spent calmly navigating inevitable hardships feels more fulfilling, and after all, the challenging that makes it so fun, right? So, just like Journey to the West wouldn't be the same story without its 81 tribulations, and life itself would be incomplete without its hardships. So that's my motivation.
What was that original quote again?
You want the Chinese one or English one?
Either or.
世上无难事，只怕有心人. Or nothing in the world is insurmountable. It only takes determination.
Especially with AI video making tools. That's the 2024 version of that quote, I guess, right?
Yeah. What about you, Steve? What's your Motivational Monday quote?
Mine's personal. Thank you for asking. So a best friend of mine is going through some health hardships these days, and the wonderful community of friends and family that he has around him, we're working together to try to support him as much as we can. And I was speaking with a fellow friend, and we were talking about how my friend is quite proud, and for him to ask for help would be a very, very difficult thing. And one of the things that came up in my conversation with my other friend was this quote: asking for help isn't shameful. It's one of the braver things you'll ever do. And I love that. And I learned that message before myself, that life message, is that everybody needs help sometimes, right? You cannot go through your life, your whole life, from start to finish and never need help from anyone else. So sometimes you have to ask for it. And I think the message I want to share today is, if you do feel like you need some help, don't be afraid to ask, because what you'll find is that your friends and family around you will be more than happy to help you out.
Exactly. Especially when if the one is the right one to ask, they will feel happy and
you ask,
because I am the one that can help you and feel trusted.
Indeed. And for this week's Motivational Monday, I've got a song for you that's been lighting a fire under me lately. It's called Bonfire by James Blunt. Released in 2013, this track is all about tapping into your inner strength and finding the courage to keep moving no matter what life throws at you. And by the by, James Blunt recently held a concert in Beijing's Lucasfilm Stadium a week ago. And trust me, the live experience is always better than streaming if you can't a singer. And the energy was just another level. Anyhow, so this song starts with the powerful line, "We're all just looking for a reason to believe," which really hit me. We all face challenges, and sometimes it feels like the weight of everything is just too much. But the truth is, we all have that reason to believe. It's inside of us. You've got a fire in your heart, and when you're struggling, that's what you need to tap into. Or maybe ask for help, like Steve just mentioned, but just don't give up on it, even if the road is tough. And speaking of energy, when James Blunt sings, "People like us, we don't need that much," it's just a reminder that sometimes the simple things are all we really need to thrive. It's not about chasing after big material goals, but about holding on to what truly matters: our heart, our passion, and the people who lift us up. People like us, we are the lucky ones. That lyric tells us that despite the chaos, we have everything we need inside of us to keep moving forward. So turn on Bonfire Heart and let it fuel you, and know that you've got everything you need to rise above whatever comes your way. And that brings us to the end of today's roundtable. Thank you so much, Steve Hatherley and Yushun, for joining the discussion. I'm He Young. Enjoy the music and your Monday, and we'll see you.
Once upon a time, in a land not so very far away, stories were told of the brave and the bold. The whole court fell silent to hear what the great warrior Mulan might ask for. Of mighty deities and powerful immortals.
Immediately, the shimmering skin started to glow before his eyes.
Of fated love and love sanctified.
In dawn's golden light, Mulan said,
Marry me. Of great journeys across fantastical landscapes. So the cat and the mouse climbed on the dog's back, and the dog swam across the broad river in the company of friends and enemies and unimagined beasts.
Good to see you.
Of ordinary folk with tantalizing stories to tell. Heroes and heroines all.
It's incredible. How did you do that?
Tales of sad sacrifice and victories snatched from the jaws of defeat. Stories of the wise, the accomplished, and the quick of mind. 5,000 years of amazing Chinese folk tales. You'll find Chinese folk tales free. Where you discover your favorite podcast.
kínai nemzetközi vegyünk, ők egy magyar nyelvű.